Hi everyone, this is the start of 4.01, Money in the Bank 1, and we're starting with slide 1. Money is everywhere. Consumers use money in a variety of forms to buy the goods and services they want. Producers use money, in the form of capital, to acquire the resources they need, and workers are almost always paid with money. Every day, money is spent, saved, lost, and made. Without money, the world would be a very different place. Explore what money is and how it functions in the economy. You will step inside the U.S. banking system to see how it is structured and how it operates, and you will study the money supply to see how it is measured and controlled, and learn about the forces that cause it to shrink and expand. It sounds like a simple question. What is money? But if you asked your friends this question, chances are you would not get a simple answer. Money is printed pieces of paper issued by governments. Money is a credit card in a wallet. Money is gold, silver, and jewels. Even goods such as cars, televisions, and soap can be defined in terms of money. When you really think about it, coming up with a conclusive definition of money is not as simple as it seems. What is money? Although a simple definition of money remains elusive, almost everybody agrees on the function that money serves. It is used by both producers and consumers to purchase resources, goods, and services within the economy. Money is difficult for people to explain because it comes in many forms. Put as simply as possible, however, money is a medium of exchange whose value is agreed upon by all parties in a transaction. Still, money is more than just dollar bills. There are many forms of money. Before exploring some of the varieties of money, examine how different money systems work. Origins of money. Throughout human history, people have used many different items as money. Coins and paper bills are forms with which we are familiar today. So are plastic credit cards and paper checks. But the very earliest forms of money were items much more useful to people in day-to-day life. In the first human transactions, the medium of exchange might have been a goat, or a basket of eggs, or a clay jar full of barley. When people trade items with each other, it is called bartering. For instance, if a farmer swaps a dozen eggs to a fisherman in exchange for a large, striped bass, they are bartering. When a dentist fixes a person's teeth in exchange for a chicken, it is also a form of barter. Bartering was undoubtedly the first kind of economic exchange in which human beings took part. Bartering is clumsy and cumbersome. Could you imagine carrying around a basket of eggs, or a fish, or a chicken to go shopping? It would be impossible to run a large economy on the barter system, and that explains the introduction of money. Money is a way of capturing the value of the eggs, the fish, or the chicken in a less clumsy way. Many centuries ago, some North American Indians used belts of beaded shells as money. Later, some American colonists used dried corn or beaver pelts, and whale's teeth served as money in some islands of the South Pacific. The barter system. Bartering works best in small communities where people know each other well and have goods and services that other people want. In order to barter, you must first find someone who has what you want. Then that person must agree to accept what you have to offer in exchange. Otherwise, you'll have to find someone else to trade with. If two sides cannot agree on the value of goods for barter, the trade will never occur. Another problem with the barter system is the difficulty of transferring many kinds of goods for each other. For instance, a freshly caught fish will spoil quickly, so it cannot be transported or stored for very long. If a good is not transferable, there is a risk that it will spoil, so it must be traded quickly. Divisibility represents another problem. If one farmer has a cow and wants to trade it for chickens, but the other farmer does not want the entire cow, what do they do? The limitations of bartering drove people to invent a much more flexible system of exchange: money. Using money is much easier than bartering. Eventually, as money became increasingly easy to divide, transport, and store, it replaced bartering almost completely. Functions of money. There are three main functions of money. First, money is a medium of exchange. People use money to purchase goods and services. Money makes the exchange of goods and services much easier than bartering. Second, money is a stable standard of value that all parties in a transaction agree upon. The value of a good or service can be measured with money. For instance, consider something that might be exchanged, say a cow. In a barter economy, the cow's worth would be measured haphazardly. Maybe the cow's owner will take 20 beaver pelts for it, or maybe 5 chickens. There is no set standard of value for the cow, or the goods for which it will be exchanged. Money provides a set standard to measure the value of goods and services. If the owner says his cow is worth $2,000, the buyer knows what that means. Third, money serves as a place to keep or store wealth so that it can be spent later. If you put your money in a piggy bank, for example, that money will generally keep its value until you take it out and spend it. Money is essentially non-perishable. You don't have to worry about it spoiling. Money can't do everything. Take a minute to think about what money does not do. As everyone knows, there are some things that money cannot buy. It can only be used to purchase goods or services that are for sale. If a farmer absolutely doesn't want to part with her cow, for example, all the money in the world cannot make her sell it. Then you can go ahead and do the drag and drop to test your knowledge. Commodity money and fiat money. Money can come in many different forms: coins, bills, beads, shells, whale's teeth, and more. But whatever form it takes, all money fits into two general categories. One type of money has value as a good other than money. This type of money is called commodity money. Commodity money has intrinsic value as a good. For example, a gold coin can be used as money, or it can be used for other things, to make jewelry, for instance. The other type of money has no intrinsic value. This type of money is called fiat money. Most currency today is fiat money. It has value only because someone, usually a government, declares that it has value. This includes paper bills and most coins, such as nickels, which are made of metal worth less than their monetary value. The most common type of money used in today's economy, digital money, is another form of fiat money. You can go ahead and listen to the last slideshow to find out about good money and bad money. The changing face of money. It was mainly out of convenience that people started using gold and silver coins instead of things with more practical value like cows or dried corn. The original form of money, commodity money, was eventually replaced by fiat money in most economies. But money is flexible and continues to change. Money today is quite different than it was 100 years ago. All commodity money and traditional fiat money are things that consumers can see and touch: paper, metal, or even plastic. Today, most money cannot actually be held. It is digital money. Digital money exists as numbers transmitted from computer to computer. In fact, only about 3% of all the money in the US economy exists in physical currency. Most of the rest is digital. If this trend continues, bills and coins may someday be obsolete. And then you go ahead and complete the exercise. We're telling the difference between commodity money and fiat money. Understanding credit. Suppose that a consumer does not have enough money to buy what she wants. One way she can still purchase those things is by using credit. Although consumers can buy goods and services with credit, it is not the same thing as money. Credit gives consumers access to money, but it is borrowed and must be returned, usually with interest. Interest is the price someone pays in order to borrow money. In a sense, interest is like a rental payment for the use of borrowed money. The amount of interest a borrower pays is determined by how much they borrow, how long they have to repay the loan, and the interest rate. Most interest rates are a set percentage of the total loan amount paid each year by the borrower. For instance, borrowing $1,000 at 10% interest rate means that the annual interest on the loan equals $100. How interest rates are determined. What factors do lenders take into account when they establish interest rates? First, lenders consider opportunity cost. For the period of the loan, the lender cannot use or otherwise invest the loan money for other purposes. So these other opportunities are lost. Interest helps make up for the lender's inability to use the money for the next best opportunity. Second, lenders take into account the rate of inflation. During the loan period, prices may rise, devaluing the loan amount over time. Interest rates will go up during periods of rapid inflation. Third, lenders weigh the transaction cost of lending. Expenses lenders face include wages for loan officers, filing fees, and the cost of conducting background checks on borrowers. Interest rates rise if transaction costs are expensive. Fourth, lenders must account for uncertainty in the economy. Anytime a lender gives out someone a loan, they do so without knowing what the future holds. Long-term loans may have higher interest rates to compensate the lender for greater risk of uncertainty about the future. Finally, lenders face a risk, a specific form of uncertainty. Lenders are always taking a risk because the borrower may default and not pay the loan back. Interest rates go up as the borrower's risk of defaulting on the loan gets higher. And we are going to end here for this one. And we will finish up 4.01 on the next recording, and we'll be starting with slide 16. As always, let me know if you have any questions or concerns about this information.